Welcome, Joe, and welcome to all our listeners. We are back for another episode of Oddballs. Today, as we discussed in our 2026 preview, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Winter Olympics, which begins on the 6th of February.
That sounds very good, Wes. I'm very excited, and welcome to everyone.
Alrighty, let's get into it. 2026 Winter Olympics. It's happening in Italy.
Yep.
It's being hosted by Milan and another town or region called Cortina d'Ampezzo.
Okay.
It's the first ever joint region or city bid that's won and is hosting an Olympics.
Okay. My understanding of that is for economic reasons, because a lot of the facilities already exist there, and it's just a lot more,
right,
a lot less expensive, basically, which is something that the Olympics are looking at going forward across summer and Winter Olympics.
That's right. But just in those few sentences that we've spoken now, I've got some fun facts for you. Okay. So I said it's the first Olympics that's ever been hosted jointly by two, let's just call them towns or cities.
Yep.
Interestingly enough, it's not the first time two towns or cities has ever been allocated or were scheduled to host the Olympics.
Okay.
That, in fact, happened in the 1940 Olympics.
Okay.
When a joint bid by Garmisch and Partenkirchen in Germany won the bid for the 1940 Olympics, and then that was then taken away from them due to the German invasion of Poland in 1939.
And I mean, proper war starting in 1940.
Yes, proper war starting then. Funnily enough, guess who was scheduled to host the 1944 Winter Olympics?
Poland.
No, it was Cortina d'Ampezzo.
Oh, okay.
So they were they were scheduled to host that one. They didn't happen because of the war, and then they ended up hosting the 1956 Winter Olympics.
Okay.
Cortina d'Ampezzo, and a few of the facilities that are being used in this Olympics now are still existing facilities that were built for the 1956 Olympics.
Okay.
So these are buildings that are up to 70 years old. So I think it's the Alpine ski base of operations in the Dolomites that was built in 1954-1955 for the Olympics, and then it is basically an ice facility in the region as well, where they're doing the curling.
Not the same type of ice facility has been making the news recently, Wes.
Not quite the same type of not the American ice
facility. So interestingly, I also just thought of two examples of the Olympics being shared between two quite disparate places. So the 2000 Olympics in Sydney, this is the Summer Olympics now. The equestrian events took place in Fiji because Australia is famously strict about like what animals they let into the country and stuff like that. So the quarantine system wasn't going to be suitable for these like performance athletes, the horses. So they did it in Fiji rather. And then the most recent, the Paris Olympics in 2024, they had the surfing in Tahiti, I think.
That's right, yeah.
Certainly in French Polynesia.
Yeah.
But Tahiti's where surfing was invented.
All right. I think the distinction between those instances and what we have now is that these were a bid that was formed based on these two towns cooperating and doing it, as opposed to Paris operating solely in and of itself and saying, but we're just going to do the surfing over there because it's a speciality event. Yeah,
you're not really going to surf on the Seine or...
No, not quite.
I mean, you could build like a wave pool, but that's not great.
Okay, so those are a few of my just straight out the blocks facts about this Olympics and where it's happening. If we have a brief look back at the Winter Olympics, when it started, as I think we might have mentioned in our 2026 preview podcast video a few days ago, I think you had mentioned that initially there were Winter Olympic sports happening in the Summer Olympics, right?
Yes.
And that was in kind of the early 1900s.
1920 was definitely had, and I think that might have been... Okay.
I think ice hockey was at 1912
ice hockey was at,
or something like that.
Ice hockey was definitely at 1920.
Right.
It might have been at a few before, but...
Okay, so basically there were winter sports happening during the Summer Olympics. Yeah. Then in 2024...
1924.
Sorry, I've done this before. In 1924, there was a suggestion that the Summer Olympics was being hosted by Chamonix in France, and there was a suggestion that there be a separate week of winter sports events that's purely dedicated to that. The attention's all on them, and during kind of around the Olympics, and that suggestion was taken, but then they took it one step further and they hosted a thing called the International Winter Sports Week. So they didn't call it the Winter Olympics, okay, and it happened at a separate time to the Summer Olympics, but in Chamonix, France again, which is where the Summer Olympics was hosted, and then it was retrospectively recognized in like 1926 or something like that as the Winter Olympics.
Was the 1924 Olympics done in Paris?
I can't tell you, but I thought it was in Chamonix, but certainly the winter sports happened in Chamonix.
Okay. No, it wasn't Paris. I know there was also one of the reasons I know is it was the 100-year anniversary, obviously recently. They had the Olympics in Paris again in 2024.
Oh yes.
But also it was the first time a soccer team ever played under the Irish, like for the country of Ireland.
Okay.
Was in the 1924.
18 was independence of Ireland?
No, it was a bit of a slow process, sort of about 20. But it was also not full independence. It was Dominion status. It was the Irish Free State, but it was the first time ever an Irish football team, Irish soccer team played.
Okay, so they had their 100-year
yeah
celebration 2 years ago. Alrighty. So in this International Winter Sports Week, which then was recognised retrospectively as the first Winter Olympics, there were 5 sports that took place. There was bobsleigh, curling, ice hockey, Nordic skiing, which involves a few things, and then skating.
Okay.
Skating involved figure skating.
Okay.
And speed skating. And then Nordic skiing involved a few things, one of which was called military parole, which there's a little bit of uncertainty about whether or not it was just a demonstration event.
Okay.
Some records say it was, some records say there were medals given for it, but military parole was basically a precursor to biathlon as we know it now.
Okay.
The cross country, ski jump, and then Nordic combined, and Nordic combined is cross country skiing and ski jump together.
Okay.
Anyway, so it was basically 3 sports.
Okay, the precursor of those 3 sports, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those were the initial 5 sports. There were 9 different disciplines in amongst them, and those sports have been pretty much staples throughout the Winter Olympics to date. I think bobsled was excluded from 1 games to date, and I think that was when it was hosted in the States somewhere, and it was just basically too costly for it was the first one that the States had hosted, and it was too costly for them to erect a whole facility for it, and there weren't enough people interested in coming across because that point in time it was really expensive.
Okay.
It was around the time of the Great Depression, I think, and
so that would have been 4 years later, probably 28.
I think it might have been 28 or 32.
32, yeah.
32.
Sorry, you're right. Great Depression started in 29, so
yeah. So anyway, so basically there was not much interest in the good sledding countries to actually go to this Winter Olympics, so they never built a facility for it, and it wasn't included in the Olympics, but there was an extra World Championship added to its cycle to accommodate the lack of a Winter Olympics in that year. So that's how the Winter Olympics kind of began, and then it kind of carried on in its 4-year cycles in the same year as the Summer Olympics.
Yeah.
Up until 1992, which was the last time the Summer and the Winter Olympics were hosted in the same year, at which point it was decided that they would start kind of alternating in 2-year batches. So you have one every 4 years, but you would always have an Olympics every 2 years. So the 1996 Winter Olympics was scheduled, and it was brought forward to 1994, and that was Lillehammer in Norway.
Okay.
Which has been widely regarded as one of the greatest Winter Olympics ever.
I have heard that, yeah. I think there's a TV show called Lillehammer, which centers around an American sort of mobster who moves to Norway under witness protection, wants to move to Lillehammer because he remembers it as the best Winter Olympics ever, basically.
There's a lot of countries that have been have a storied history in the Winter Olympics. The United States, unfortunately, are the only country to have won a gold at every Winter Olympics. And Norway leads the all-time medal scoring, the all-time medal record, as well as the all-time gold medal record. But there's an asterisk next to that. Why? Do you have any suspicions as to why that might be?
I was going to say something silly like that they counted the gold medals times by however many people in the team, but they don't do that. So
no, it has nothing to do with Norway.
Okay.
It has everything to do with who else might have topped the list.
Okay, the Soviet Union and Russia.
Not the Soviet Union and Russia, but the same kind of logic. Germany would have topped the list
if you included East Germany, West Germany,
and West German medals. But on the gold medal count, it's only by about 7 golds.
Okay.
And on the all-time medals, it's only by about 30.
And it's kind of unfair because they were able to win, let's say, gold and silver at a given event.
But a lot of these Winter Olympic sports, you're competing
with multiple teams,
or multiple individuals in the same event. You might take first and second. Think about Jamaican sprinting.
Yeah.
In the 2010s.
That's true.
They're probably top 2, top 3 sprinters.
Ethiopian or Kenyan 10,000 meter runners.
Exactly. So it's not necessarily wouldn't preclude you, but maybe there would have been more German athletes.
Yeah.
Because maybe now you're allowed to enter 6 instead of 3.
Yeah.
So perhaps that helps a bit. What are we on to next? Cortina D'Ampezzo, who is, as I've said, jointly hosting this one, and as I said, has previously hosted one. They had the dubious honour of hosting the first ever televised Olympics in 1956.
Why dubious?
Dubious because it didn't start very well.
Okay.
At the opening ceremony, was started by somebody skating into the arena, which was an ice rink, holding the Olympic torch, and because now it was the first televised event, there was a lot more technology in this arena than what they had been previously used to. And there was some kind of cable that was strewn across the ice. And the skater fell or tripped on the cable. First televised thing, we have the first televised Olympics, and we have the guy tripping over a cable. The guy fell down with the thing and burnt his arm.
Oh dear.
The torch almost went out, which would have meant no Olympics.
Yep.
He managed to get himself up and go light the cauldron, but it was a little bit of a egg on the face situation.
Yeah.
Because it was not exactly the first image of televised Olympics.
And this was
looking for.
This was the first televised Olympics, summer or winter, presumably, because the winter ones I would think take place now, January, February-ish.
Yeah, February in Northern Hemisphere.
And then summer takes place in sort of September of the same year at this time.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I guess speaking of that, as what you say, it happens now, like kind of January, February. That's typical because it's winter in Northern Hemisphere. Southern Hemisphere to date has not hosted a Winter Olympics, but they have acknowledged that it would be in the kind of August, September slot.
And where, I'm trying to think where would be suitable to that. Maybe South America?
South America,
yeah.
Would be. Ask me, I thought Pakistan was in the Southern Hemisphere the other day, so I'm not the man for the job there. I don't have too much more information about the history of the Winter Olympics. There's a few great moments that we'll maybe talk about later, or maybe not. I was just going to say, if people are wanting to get psyched for the Olympics, what Joe and I did over this last weekend is we decided to watch Cool Runnings, which is a famous movie following, it's loosely based on the story of a Jamaican bobsled team.
In 1988?
1988 Olympics. So I thought, if people are wanting to get even more psyched about the Olympics, what other movies can we recommend? So there's a few.
Eddie the Eagle?
Eddie the Eagle, following the story of Michael Edwards, who was a British plasterer turned Olympic ski jumper.
That's also 1988 Olympics.
1988 Olympics as well. Calgary, I think. Then we have Miracle, which was released in about 2004, and that's about the miracle on ice.
Which we'll get to later.
Okay, Joe will tell us more about that later. Perfect. I've also recently watched I, Tonya, which is the story about Tonya Harding and her
figure skater.
Yeah, figure skater, and her American compatriot Nancy Kerrigan. And basically the long and short of it is that Tonya Harding's ex-husband went and organised a hit on Nancy Kerrigan, and she basically broke a knee or something like that.
The intention wasn't to kill her, but it was basically to injure her, to get her to make sure.
It was actually just to frighten her, because Tonya Harding had been frightened before a previous event, and it shook her. So, and then she didn't perform so well, and that was, I think the 90. This was around the time where it was the 92 and then the 94 Winter Olympics. So it was only 2 years
quite
apart.
Close. Okay.
Yeah. So it was she didn't have the best 92 Olympics, and then this was at the 94 Olympics. Anyway, so basically her ex-husband, one of the figure skaters' ex-husbands, organized this hit and broke the knee or leg of one of the top competitors from the States as well. She managed to recover in time. Tonya went to they both ended up going to the Olympics. I think Tonya came, I can't actually remember where she came. I'd be lying. I think she certainly didn't medal. And Nancy Kerrigan managed to get the silver, which was, I think, sweet justice. Then there's that. And then there's Icarus, which is the Russian, follows the Russian doping scandal. And that kind of came off the back of a historically bad 2010 Winter Olympics for Russia, where it was the first time in whoever knows how long that they hadn't come in the top 5 in the medals table. And then the Russian government decided to pump something like 600 million, I don't know, dollars or something like that. Probably dollars it was measured, but $600 million into this kind of high performance program, which basically turned out to just be a doping scandal. It permeated beyond the winter sports, which is why Russia was banned from Summer Olympics and all sorts of other things, cycling and all sorts. Although you thought they might have been elevated their status in the cycling world, but it was primarily focused on the Winter Games because they were hosting the 2014 Winter Olympics was in Sochi. So they wanted to make sure they had a good showing, and they did perform really well. But for illegitimate reasons. So that's another movie if you are interested in getting psyched like we were. Then there's also some cool highlights videos, which maybe we'll link. There's a cool story about an Australian speed skater who was somehow lucked through to the final. And he was truly awful. He was like being dropped off the back of the pack, and in his huge accident, he ends up winning a gold for Australia in the speed skating. There's another speed skating video at the Youth Olympics. Anyway, we'll link that stuff below. So check it out if you want to get psyched for
the Winter Olympics.
The Winter Olympics. What Joe and I are going to do in a little bit is discuss the 4 sports that we selected in our 2026 What to Expect preview. And these are the 4, if you haven't seen that, we basically identified 4 sports that are happening in the Winter Olympics that we're going to focus on. We're going to tell you a little bit about how they work now. And then throughout the Winter Olympics, we'll give short updates, maybe 15, 20 minutes at a time, of what's going on in that sport. It's just because I think it's so easy for us. We're not really winter sports people. It's so easy. It's pretty easy to just pop the TV on and watch a little bit of Winter Olympics, but you don't really know what's going on. You're not invested in it. So we just thought, let's invest in something a little bit and follow it. So we're going to do that in a bit. But before we do that, I just want to give a few shout outs to some new things that are happening at the 2026 Olympics.
Okay.
The first thing is there are 3 countries making their debut at the Winter Olympics for the first time ever. We have 2 African countries, Benin, and we've got Nathan Chibozo, who is doing the giant slalom and the slalom.
Okay.
Alpine skiing. Then we've got Guinea-Bissau, a man named Winston Tang. He is doing the men's slalom and alpine skiing.
Okay.
And then we have 2 debutantes from the UAE. A chap called Alexander Astridge. This guy is particularly impressive because he learned how to ski in a shopping mall.
In Dubai?
Yes.
Okay.
In Dubai. It is the Mall of the Emirates in Dubai, and it has Ski Dubai in it.
Yes, but I've heard of it.
I think he's in a pretty unique position where he's the only person in the world who I would say would get to the Olympics, having learned how to ski in a shopping mall.
Well, I mean, you would say the same thing about the Jamaican bobsled team from 1988, that they learned how to bobsled on the sand. I don't know.
Well, fair enough, but I'm saying learn to ski in a mall.
In a mall, fair.
That's a pretty unique distinction.
It is.
Anyway, so good luck to Alexander. And then we have Pira Hudson, who is a lady representing the UAE in the women's giant slalom and slalom. She gets a little bit less of a shout out because she's only making a debut for the UAE. She's not from the UAE. She's recently changed her nationality. She is actually from New Zealand.
Okay.
But still, good luck to her. I think it's her first time in the Olympics. So Go on.
Okay. I saw South Africa has got I think 4 or 5 entrants.
We have 5. We have 5 participants. It's the most ever participants from an African country.
Okay. And I saw Ireland only has 4.
Exactly.
Which is a pretty poor showing from a much more wintry country than South Africa.
But there's not many rain events in the Winter Olympics, unfortunately. It's more doesn't seem to snow
here as much as well. As
no, it really doesn't. But yeah, we have the biggest contingent from Africa, and it's the biggest contingent that's ever come from Africa.
Nice.
Is our 5. So those are 3 countries making their debut, and then we have one new sport, which is called ski mountaineering, commonly referred to as skimo.
Mm-hmm.
And it's making its Olympic debut. Basically, how the sport works is the people rush up a mountain and then ski down it.
Okay.
So it's the act of going up and down. And going up, there are different sections that you have to ascend on skis. And your skis will have like they call it a skin, which means it's like a sticky, carpety thing underneath, which helps you to, once you slide up, it prevents you from sliding backwards. You have to go up part of it on the skis, on the skins, and then you take them off. Then you have to go up by foot, and then you take it all off. You rip the skins off, and then you ski downhill. So this is a new sport to look out for. If you see it, note it. Whoever wins it will be the first gold in Olympic history for that. So history to be made there, which is quite exciting. And one race, there's 3 events happening in this. There's the men's sprint, the women's sprint, and then the mixed relay. The sprint event takes about 3 minutes, so you really won't have to overinvest yourself if you do decide to watch it. And then the mixed relay, so the sprint is just 1 ascent and 1 descent, and then the mixed relay is a team of 2, and each person does 2 ascents and descents.
Okay.
And then you hand over, the person does the next lap, and then hand over, and that's 1 male, 1 female. This Olympics also has the highest female to male representation ever. It's 47% to
53
to 53%. And I think this has been a concerted effort that's being made by the Olympics, because I think that Paris Olympics had an exactly 50-50 ratio of athletes and medal events split between men and women, or mixed obviously, but I think this is a concerted effort to kind of to push gender equality in the sports, which is cool to see. Alrighty, Joe, I've spoken enough. Why don't you tell us about your first sport? So for anyone who didn't listen to our preview, the 4 sports we've picked to follow
have been picked for us by the
exactly. So
random
we put them on a random wheel and it spun, and we got it spat out 4 sports for us. They are luge, ice hockey, curling, and freestyle skiing.
Yes.
We're going to go not in that order because Joe can speak now.
I will.
Tell us about ice hockey.
I'll start us off with ice hockey. So yeah, very quick, 30-second sort of ice hockey for dummies. 5 players on a team. You try to get the puck or the ball. It's not a ball, but what we would think of a ball in soccer into the net. So it's very similar to soccer in that way. You're just getting the ball into the net. 1 point per goal. And you use sticks, so very much like normal hockey, but 5 aside. Obviously, you're skating on ice. It's incredibly fast, incredibly physical. You see players bashing into each other a lot, and it's almost difficult to keep an eye on the puck. It moves so quickly, but yeah, it's incredible to watch because of the pace of it, and I think that's, and the physicality, obviously, and those are the 2 big things. Then why it is so big at the moment is in large part. Have you heard of Heated Rivalry, Wes?
No, beyond. I mean, I just know what a heated rivalry is.
No. Okay, so this was a novel.
Okay, no, I don't.
But has been turned into a series on, I think it's the Canadian Broadcasting Company, and it's been shown on HBO and stuff. It is about this heated rivalry between 2. Well, over the years, they start 2 young hockey players. So one guy's Canadian and the one guy is Russian, and they sort of play in a Canada versus Russia under-18s game, let's say. And then they meet in the draft for the NHL, and sort of follows them throughout their career. And it shows their rivalry, and then friendship, and then relationship.
They fall in love.
They do fall in love, and it is very don't know what the right word is, but sexually charged.
Okay.
The whole thing. And that's very popular at the moment, and has raised the profile of ice hockey among non-ice hockey fans quite a lot. This will also be the first Olympics that has NHL players, so National Hockey League is the American Ice Hockey League, so that features American and Canadian teams. It's the first one with NHL players since 2014. They didn't play 2018. Or sorry, it might be since 2010 even. They missed 2018.
2014.
Okay. They missed 2018. I think they were meant to be at 22, but COVID kind of wrecked that. So, I mean, these are normally the best players in the world.
And these players are still representing their countries.
Yeah. So, yeah, you imagine particularly the American and Canadian teams would have been severely weakened without NHL players. The other teams slightly less so, but still their best players often are playing in the NHL. So yeah, we spoke. Ice hockey was played in the 1920 Olympics. I think that was in my research, 1920 was the first time they played, which was the Summer Olympics, obviously, and then Winter Olympics since 1924. The women's game only started being played in 1992. And just to give you a little bit of a history of how the gold medals have gone, Canada won 6 of the first 7, interrupted by a unusual team, I would say, was.
Okay.
Team GB.
Won really?
In the 50s, I think, yeah.
That's very strange.
And then the Soviet...
There's an ice hockey rink in
Belfast.
In Belfast.
Yeah. It's a mediumly big game in the UK. Like, I've seen pictures of people going, like, all the cities, particularly maybe the more northern cities, have got ice hockey teams. Anyway, the Soviet Union then won 7 of the next 10. Maybe, say, 8 if we include the unified team in 1992, which was just after the breakup of the Soviet Union, but all the countries that made up the Soviet Union still participated together. One of the big so the US interrupted that twice. They won in 64 and 80, which was the Miracle on Ice that we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
So the Miracle on Ice was the US team beating the Russians. The Russians were huge favorites. This was in the US. I think it was Lake Placid. Mm-hmm. And the reason there's such a big upset, you would think, particularly today, the American team is much more fancy than the Russian team. This was still in the days of pretty strict amateurism. So the NHL players weren't allowed to play in the Olympics. It was all the hockey college players. And whereas the Soviet Union team, these were all guys playing in leagues, and they were strictly speaking amateur, but they were sort of state sponsored, and sort of they were the best team in the world playing against a group of college kids. And the US team beat them in the gold medal match.
Amazing.
Yeah. So since then, it's been a little bit...
It was obviously so monumental that they made a movie about it.
They did, yeah.
I don't imagine the Russians made a movie about it.
No, I don't think so. The Springboks didn't make a movie about the Brighton miracle either, losing to Japan in the rugby. Since the 90s has been a little bit more competitive, we've seen Sweden win, Czechia, Finland, Canada have won 3 times since then, and the Russian team won in 2018. We spoke about they weren't representing the Russian flag, at least. I can't remember what they were called. And then, obviously 2018, although the Russian team won, got a little bit of an asterisk because of no NHL players.
Right. Sorry, when did the Russian team win when you said you don't know what they were called?
2018.
2018. Okay. That's pretty interesting because I saw something. So now Russian athletes can't compete anymore, right?
Yeah, I think so.
They have to compete under the I don't know.
That's what I'm talking about. It's right. the Special Olympic team or something.
Yeah, but they are. So obviously this wasn't the case in 2018.
Yeah.
Now they're not allowed to enter team events.
Okay.
Because they said it's impossible for individual athletes to compete as a team. So you won't see any Russian athletes competing in a doubles or a team relay or anything like that. At this Olympics, and I imagine it would be the same with ice hockey.
They're not in the.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So obviously 2018 they hadn't established that kind of.
Yeah, I think it was quite soon after
on this international athletes.
Yeah.
Independent athletes process, but now it's very much they don't allow you to compete in any team event because you are there you're competing alone. You're not competing as a team of individual athletes.
I mean, you can see how I referred to them as the Russian team.
Yes.
By some other name.
Yes,
Yeah, that is practically how they're viewed.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Europe's also quite big in continental Europe, and there's sort of like each country's got their league, got a Champions League-like format where the top teams from each country play in a Champions League-like format. In terms of medal hopefuls for this, Canada and the US are big favourites in both. Canada slight favourites in the men's. USA women a little bit more favoured. They about 75% chance, whereas Canada USA is more like, it's actually quite close in the men's game. I'd say Canada favourites at like 35% chance, and then the US are like 25%, and then there's lots of teams
that have a chance
between 10 and 20.
Okay.
So the men's game is a lot more equal across countries. The women's game is heavily dominated by the US and Canada, and part of a reason for that, I'm sure, is that a professional league has started since 2023-24 in the US and Canada. It's got 4 Canadian teams and 4 US teams.
In the women's game?
Yeah.
I see. So they are potentially advancing themselves skill-wise a lot more aggressively than what other nations might be doing.
Yeah, if you're doing it as a job, you're going to be able to. You can improve a lot faster than amateurs.
Fair enough.
Anyway, so that's ice hockey, and we'll keep you updated throughout the next 2 weeks or so. Ice hockey is one of these things that will continue throughout the tournament. Obviously, there are lots of games. The men's format, there are 3 pools of 4, and then they go into like a weird playoff like system. It's not the best format in the world.
But you essentially at some point get to a quarterfinal.
Yes.
Semi-final, final.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let me tell you about freestyle skiing. So freestyle skiing is a newer discipline or sport that's been added to the Olympic roster. Its first discipline was added in 1992, and since then we are now up to 6 disciplines which have been added along the way, kind of as we go. The nations that are quite good at it typically seem to be China, the US, Sweden, Switzerland, and Canada. Okay. Canada's got the most athletes competing in this year's freestyle skiing sport across the different disciplines. I know nothing about these, so I thought it'd be a good idea to run through some of the different disciplines. I'm gonna, when we do our recaps, I'm only gonna focus on three of the 6 disciplines that exist, but I'll give you a brief overview of what they are. The first one is called moguls, which is basically people skiing down a slope with a whole bunch of like little mounds. So you have to like jostle and jab between the mounds, but these things are like a meter wide and only a meter apart from one another. So it's kind of like it's like a little maze you have to get through, and it's about how fast you can get through and how skillfully and how gracefully you can do it all. And then half on the way down the slope, there are 2 ramps that you can kind of launch yourself off and do a trick, and then you land and then get through nice and smoothly to the next one, do a trick and you land. And yeah, it's judged, it's scored based, there's a time component, and then there's a style and difficulty component to it as well. To scoring, there's also a thing called dual mogul, where you do exactly the same thing, but you do it, 2 people run it at exactly the same time, and then it's kind of a race. So that's kind of a more head-to-head element. There's a South African girl doing this. Her name is Malika Malherbe. She's one of the 5 athletes that's going. So I thought that was quite cool, pretty unique. I don't know how you get into that in South Africa. Never heard of it before. And this is running kind of from the 10th to 12th of Feb, so at the end of the first week of the Olympics. Then the second discipline is called aerials, and this in my mind is like diving in the Olympics, in the Summer Olympics. So where they leap off their board and do spinny spins and then land in the pool, and it's all about predetermined tricks, and then that are scored at different difficulty levels. So this aerials is easily confused with a thing called big air, which I'll get to later, but there are predetermined tricks you can do, and each different trick is scored at a different difficulty level, and it's very rigid. These people slide down a ramp and then they launch themselves up, and then it's very rigid.
Mechanical
is how it looks, and very precise. Like, as opposed to big air, which let me talk about that now. It's a longer slope. You come into it with more speed, and it's a flatter launch pad, so you get a shallower jump but a much longer jump.
Okay.
And the people will do like 6.5 full rotations, and they grab their skis as they're going, and they might take off backwards and land backwards. So that's called switch. If you land backwards or take off backwards, and you're allowed to do that in big air, you're not allowed to do that in aerial. So aerial seems like kind of the more old school proper version of this, and then big air is like almost the modern take on it, I would say. Much more style based, and the tricks are way crazier. Then you have ski cross, which is the thing I'm most excited for, and I'm going to be following. And that is when you have, think of like in normal sports, like a BMX racetrack. You have that, except it's made out of snow and ice, and the people on their skis will go up and down and race there, and they race 4v1 in the actual. So there's 4 people in a race, and the top 2 progress to the next round.
Yeah.
Initially, you do a run by yourself as a qualifying run, and then that seeds the top 32, and then the top 32 go into 8 races of 4, with the top 2 progressing all the way until you get to a final to determine the medals. This is particularly cool because it's head-to-head. What you see on the track as it's happening is all you need to know about. Whoever wins the race goes through, second place goes through, the other 2 are out.
Nice.
It is a simple sport, and it's very racy, which I quite like. It's quite different to some of the other Winter Olympic sports. And then you give the last 2 disciplines are called slopestyle and halfpipe. Slopestyle, if you think about like a skateboarding park where you have like different ramps and like a box and a rail you can grind on, it's exactly that. And you just do cool tricks as you go. You have a certain amount of time to do your tricks, but you're doing it all in snow and ice. And then halfpipe is
a half pipe,
like a skateboarding half pipe.
Big U-shaped,
a U-shaped big channel, and you run down it. You do a few ups and downs of it. Do your tricks. You can, These things seem very X Gamesy to me. Very modern, not proper
sport.
Not proper sport. I mean, listen, slopestyle and halfpipe were only introduced to the Winter Olympics in 2014. There's big air, which I'm talking about, which we are going to follow, because I kind of dismissed it as X Gamesy and not really proper Winter Olympics, and then I watched a few videos, and it is insane what these people are doing in the air. It is so cool. So I was like, okay, now we're going to follow that. But that was only introduced in 2022, so it's only been at one Olympics before this. And ski cross has only been there since 2010. So moguls is the most old school version of it, 1992. Then aerials came in 1994, which was Lillehammer. And then the rest were kind of all added in the 2010s and thereafter. So we're going to follow those. I don't really know any of the big names. We'll figure it out as we go. But the Americans seem very good, and the Chinese seem very good. And then the Swiss, Swedish, Canadians, they'll all get in the mix. So, we'll see how it goes.
And then my second sport is curling. So again, I've got another team sport. You've gone with the individual ones. But yeah, curling is...
There's a team component to luge, which I'll get
to. That is true. Okay. So curling is often one of the sports people are most excited about in the Winter Games, even if they haven't really heard about it before, followed it before. It's relatively intuitive. You would have played similar enough games. The main point of the game is you throwing these stones, or curling these stones, into the center of a target. The team that has the stone closest to the center of the target gets 1 point, and then they get an additional point for each of their stones that is closer to the center than the opposition's closest stone.
It's like a shuffleboard.
It is very much like shuffleboard.
Okay.
So yeah, that is the game. Pretty simple, you would think. There's a little bit of nuance in, the 2 real parts of it. So the first is how you throw, basically. And there are kind of 3 types of throws. So the first one is just going for the center, essentially. The second one would be clearing out. So you would try and basically hit your opponent's stones away from the center, or away from, or what I'll get to now. And then the third one is kind of like a blocking one. So if you've got one at the center, let's say, you're going to try and block your opponents from their ability to clear you out of the center.
Okay.
So your opponents would then have to waste a clearing out one on...
As opposed to attacking.
Exactly. And then so the second component, other than throwing, so you can obviously control how hard you throw and if you put a little bit of spin on or what it is, a bit of curl on. The second component is obviously the sweeping, which you'll be familiar with.
Yes.
And essentially, the long and the short of sweeping is that it melts the ice, it causes the friction, it causes a decrease in the friction, so it causes it to go a little bit faster and to curl a little bit less, to spin a little bit less. So by sweeping or not sweeping, you can kind of control the pace and the curl. And then again, depending on if you want to go fast to clear it out, too fast to go a little bit further, slow to make sure that you don't overshoot, etc.
It's essentially that little spin feature.
Yeah.
That you had on the early 2000s Tiger Woods
2008 game, where you could add left spin if you...
Or add top spin when the ball was 10 meters away from the green.
Yeah.
Because you realized it wasn't going to get on.
Yes.
All right.
So it's adding spin to the golf ball after you've hit it, basically.
Amazing.
So yeah, typically teams are 4, and each end you will take, each team will throw 2 stones. So there will be 8 stones in total. So theoretically, you could get up to 8 points on an end, and you would typically play 10 ends. And then the winner is the team with the most ends. The sweepers typically will be, you have one person sweeping on either side, and then you have a person at the back sort of basically instructing them how to sweep, who's more the tactic. And that's typically the captain, unless the captain is the one throwing, and then it'll be a vice captain. They call them skippers rather than captains. So yeah, that is curling in a nutshell. The one interesting thing is that, so there's men's and women's, and there's mixed doubles. And the mixed doubles is only 2 players, obviously, 1 man and 1 woman, and they throw 3 stones each, and obviously just sweep for each other.
Okay.
So yeah, curling's been at the Olympics since 1998. It was a demonstration sport in 24, which was the first ever Winter Olympics. And actually, it's like kind of retroactively been legitimized, and they've said that they've given the gold medal to, I think Great Britain won it that year. Oh. So they've said that's they're gold medalists now.
Oh, from the 1924 one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, Canada have been the most successful country. They haven't performed very well in recent years, so they didn't win in either men's or women's in 2018 or 22, and this is almost like close to the national sport of Canada. Ice hockey is more popular, but they're proud of their curling status. So yeah, Canada are the big contenders. They're close to favourites for all 3 events. Great Britain men are up there as well, and mixed. Switzerland also have got quite good chances in both, but not in the mixed. It's really bizarre what chances teams have in this. Sweden, good chances in the women's and the mixed. And Italy, no chance in men's, no chance in women's, but they're the favourites for the mixed.
That is wild.
So they've obviously just got one really good curler of either gender and no one else, basically. But yeah, curling, I think the attraction of curling is its simplicity to watch. It's not a sport you need to know everything about to be able to understand. And yeah, I think the ability of the game, the end at least, to just change on a single throw. You could have someone essentially scoring 8 points to the other team scoring 1 point with a single throw.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a finely sort of balanced game. I think it's something I'm really looking forward to watching.
Exciting. And Joe, how much do you know about curling stones?
I don't know too much. I know they used to be just like normal stones. So the game started in Scotland. I know that. They used to be just kind of normal stone, like kind of the most smooth stones they could find. Now they remind me a little bit of bowling balls. They're kind of like rounded.
They are rounded. The YouTube algorithms threw me a video which I watched.
Yeah.
They made all Olympic curling stones for a while now. Have been made by a company called Kays of Scotland. They are all made out of granite. Okay. 2 different types of granite that are mined from one tiny island off the coast of Scotland, which is called Isla Craig, and this Kays of Scotland has a lease over this island, so the exclusive rights to to mine the granite from it. They've had it for about 30 years at this point. They only mine the granite to make these things once every decade or so. The last time they did it was about 10 or 12 years ago odd. And then they shape the stuff. They take enough, and they've been doing it for 30 years. Apparently, they've only taken 0.001% of the available granite on this island.
Okay, well, let's hope curling doesn't become too popular.
Exactly, the poor island will disappear.
Yeah.
But one curling stone costs about £600.
Okay.
So a set of 4 would be $2,500.
Well, you need a set of 8.
Right, yeah. Oh, true. Set of 8. Anyway, so we're talking about
for your team.
These are expensive stones.
Yeah.
And yeah, the kind of the process that goes into making them is actually quite intricate and pretty cool to see. And they made parts of it's done by machine, but then the finishing is all done by hand, which is quite interesting to see. So go check out Caves of Scotland if you're interested. Let me get on to luge. Luge is very cool. So everybody knows bobsleigh.
Everybody does know bobsled.
Bobsleigh, you take your big chariot, whatever it's called. What is it called? Your sled. Sled. And whether you're in 2 or 4 person sleds, you just hurl it down the track as fast as possible. I hope you survive to the end. Now luge, we're talking about the same track.
Yeah.
Okay? Except, just imagine now a plank of wood with skates on the bottom of it. This is your chariot for the sport of luge. And there are 2 very similar sports. One is luge and one is skeleton.
Yep.
Skeleton, you go down
face first.
Head first, which looks cooked, but at least you can see where you're going.
That's true.
Luge, you go down lying on your back, feet first.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You can, if you put your chin against your chest, you can maybe see where you're going. And these guys steer very, very finely, kind of just with the balance of where they're going, putting down their shoulders, and then gently touching the ice with their feet as well.
Okay.
So they hold themselves down there. 'Tis a simple sport. Fastest to the bottom wins.
Okay.
And try not to kill yourself.
Yep.
There have been, unfortunately, some incidents over the years. It is a dangerous sport, and there's a lot of scrutiny that all these sledding sports are under at the moment because of micro vibrations.
Okay.
And
like concussions and subconcussions.
These basically your brain injuries that are happening on a recurring basis that are not impactful enough to be considered a concussion, and then it's a common problem where people who have retired from the sport are now suffering dementia and
I think they're called like subconcussion events or
something like that. So it is they are looking to improve the safety of the sport a lot from particularly from that perspective. They understand if you're going down, crashes happening, bad things happen, but it's these unknown injuries that people don't really know they're taking the risk, and you only find out 30-40 years later. So there's some scrutiny on the sport in all the sledding sports in that respect because of the vibrations that you put your head under as you're going down here. Now, the luge in the Olympics, there are 5 events: men's singles, men's doubles, women's singles, women's doubles, and then a team relay. The team relay for me is the coolest, but I'll go through all of them. Men's singles, 1 man on a sled.
Yep.
Down the chute he goes.
Fastest wins.
Fastest to the bottom wins. Well, actually, technically, they do 4 runs.
Okay.
The combined
total
of their 4 is your score to win. Then, so you have to be considerate if you crash once. Huge problems. Men's doubles, 1 man on a sled. Another man lying on top of that man.
Okay.
Or woman. Down they go. And I believe you put the heavier person on top. They've sometimes called this the romantics sport.
Okay.
And it uncannily is frequently scheduled for the 14th of February. Which is quite funny. This year, unfortunately, is on the 13th of February, so they got close. But it is a very, very intimate sport. And these 2 people lying right on top of each other, going down the chute at full speed. So that's the singles and doubles, men's and women's is the same. Then the team relay, which is my favorite iteration of the sport, is it comprises of a women's single, a men's single, and then a doubles team.
Okay.
You could choose which whether you want to men's or women's doubles, you'd always choose men because they're heavier.
Yeah.
So they will go down the chute faster thanks to gravity. And the lady will go off. When she gets to the bottom of the track, there's like a pad that like a circular thing hanging down in the track that she has to whack. And the second she whacks it, it opens the gate at the top of the track again for the men's single to go down. Then he gets to the bottom, whacks that thing again, and it opens the chute for the doubles to go down, which is quite cool. Another thing to consider for these guys while they're doing luge is that obviously they're sitting on their sleds, so they can't kind of run and propel themselves. So in order to start the event, they kind of are sat at a kind of a gate with poles, and then when their run begins, they kind of propel themselves by pulling onto the poles.
Forward, okay.
Yeah, and they pull themselves forward, and then when they're still on the flat bit, they kind of have these gloves on their hands that have kind of like studs on them, and they'll kind of like grip the ice to propel themselves forward, to pick up speed beyond kind of what they managed to propel themselves with. And then once they've picked up enough speed like that, then they'll lie back into the death posture.
Okay. the coffin
posture.
The coffin run.
And hope for the best. So that's pretty much luge. One thing to consider is maybe the teams who are good, or the countries that are good, who are favourites. Germany are, in no uncertain terms, incredible at the sport. They seem to dominate the medals. Yeah. Certainly at the last Olympics. At the last Olympics, they won the men's singles gold, men's doubles gold, women's singles gold, and then all the competitors of those three events formed the team relay. Okay. Which they subsequently...
So not much of a surprise that they
won the gold.
Yeah.
So they're pretty dominant, the full house of sorts. But other teams or other countries that are traditionally good at luge would be Austria, Latvia, the USA is quite good.
Okay. Switzerland?
Kind of.
Okay.
Not super prominent.
I just remember them being the best team in Cool Runnings bobsled.
Oh, right, yeah. Switzerland is a hotspot for the sledding sports, that's for sure. There's some countries that just don't seem to really feature. I would say kind of like France. Okay. Doesn't really feature that much. The UK doesn't feature enormously. Kind of those more LP. Yeah. Which kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
That's where
Latvia, it doesn't strike me as a very mountainous country, so
I don't know the topography of Latvia, I must be honest.
Of the Balkans. The Baltic, sorry. The Balkans obviously being in the south.
So those are the guys to look out for. One particular, there's so many kind of individuals involved, and some of the guys who are at the previous Olympics are not at the current one. So there have been some people who have kind of established themselves in their kind of World Cup, the annual event that takes place for the losers. Not to be confused with losers.
They're the ones doing skeleton.
Exactly. One team in particular to look out for are the favourites for the men's doubles, who are a German team who I've donned the team Tobias. Made up of two Tobiases, Tobias Wendel and Alt. They won the gold in 2022, so they were part of that team relay team. And then second favourites is another pair of Germans.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of what to look out for. On the luge side, you briefly mentioned skeleton there.
Yeah.
We have a South African competing in the skeleton, believe it or not.
Oh, very nice.
I haven't a clue where she would have trained herself up in this.
So one of the reasons that I knew about skeleton at first was reading a Sports Illustrated article from presumably 2006 or 2010 about a South African skeleton. So South Africa seems to have a bit of a history in skeleton.
I think so. I was reading something on News 24, and they were made mention of someone who had gone to the Olympics fairly like Winter Olympics 2 or 3 times around that time, and they are involved with the team this year as kind of like leading the delegation type thing. I'm not sure if it was that person, but there were 2 people involved, so there's a good chance we wouldn't have had that many Winter Olympic athletes around that time.
No, I don't think so.
It would only be a handful.
I think that might have been our first Winter Olympian, or second or third, or whatever.
So there's a good chance that person's still involved. But the South African lady competing in skeleton, her name is Nicole Berger.
Okay.
And she doesn't have a Wikipedia page yet. So maybe maybe we take that upon ourselves to
Yeah.
make Nicole Berger a Wikipedia page. So yeah, that's luge.
That's luge.
In
Okay.
full, we'll in the updates that we do, we'll mainly follow luge. I'll have a brief look at the other sledding sports as well, because they're pretty similar and all pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have a look into that as we go. Those happen kind of over, all the sledding sports seem to happen over kind of a 3 or 4 day window from the qualifying, or from run 1 through to run 4, or whatever the format is.
Yeah.
And they kind of follow each other back to back. So once we've done with luge, perhaps there's a skeleton after that, so it might be well worth following. And then obviously the sports you've discussed, the ice hockey and curling, those are happening throughout the course of
Yeah, well,
tournament?
so curling begins tomorrow on Wednesday, the 4th of February.
Okay.
We should be releasing this on Tuesday, the 3rd of February. So hopefully, hopefully off to a good start in the curling.
Yeah, let's hope so. All right. Is that... Do we call it a day there?
That's all we've done. Just a quick question: if you have any personal favourites going into this Olympics, maybe not actual athletes, but maybe countries.
Well, I'm partial to South Africa.
Obviously.
The 5 athletes that are there will be well worth supporting. I'll keep an eye out for them. I'm not expecting them to...
I don't think there are many medal hopefuls. Or
I don't think there's even a sniff of a medal.
Okay.
I may be wrong. And you never know what happens. That's probably what the Australians said about that...
about the speed skater.
Speed skater
That's
back in
true.
the day. So crazy things can happen. So yeah, you never know. We'll keep an eye on the South Africans. I think on the competitive front, I kind of, for some reason, I'm leaning Canada direction.
I am also have a fondness for Canada.
Yeah, I mean...
particularly also the sports that I did, curling and ice hockey, kind of national pastimes in Canada.
Sure.
So, yeah.
They seem a fairly likeable country. I know 2 Canadians. They're nice.
I think they
Enough.
are. I don't think I know any Canadians, but they do seem nice. So.
You do know Canadian. You've met one of our friends' brothers-in-law.
Oh, that's true, Vincent. Okay. Hello, Vincent, if you're listening.
Name dropping Vincent on the pod, all the way from Germany. I hope you're practicing your luge. Yeah, Canada would be cool. I mean, and they will be pretty competitive in a lot of sports. So I think if we're going to follow a nation and try back them for some medals, I think Canada would be the direction to go. Other than, of course, just being wholeheartedly behind the Jamaican bobsled team.
Obviously. As the rest of the world will be.
Let's hope so.
Other than the sort of 28 other guys contesting that bobsled race.
Yeah, even those athletes' mothers.
Yeah.
Let's go Jamaica. Okay, let's call it a day there.
Yeah.
We're going to try and keep these things short this year.
Yeah, we a little bit longer than expected, but thank you very much for your time, Wes, and thank you everyone for listening. And we look forward to the Winter Olympics and some more updates.
Cheers.
Cool. Cheers.